ecosystem and, meeting other people that are also involved in startups, is there a certain culture around that? Like a certain set of behaviors?
Definitely. You work in a startup. But I mean, some things are probably very universal. You work in a startup, so what? You're cool and you're dynamic and you're hip.
Yeah.
You love to wear hoodies.
Yeah.
You drink club mate.
Yeah.
You do enjoy coming on your bike to work and listen to techno music.
Yeah.
That's all very, very much part of the culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like there's a hip culture to it.
There's a hip culture. It's very international, English speaking.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's definitely a certain lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's much more than. But that's probably the same in many different parts because that comes together with like being innovative and creative.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Okay, so I think we've sort of covered the strengths. Oh yeah, okay, so what do you think there are any weaknesses in the Berlin ecosystem? Yeah.
Definitely. You need more money in the city.
Okay.
Like Germans, we tend to be quite conservative.
Yeah, sure.
And German VCs are just much more conservative than crazy US VCs who just throw money at something to see if it works. Though the valuations are usually much lower here than you would have in another city. So what's needed are more like risk-seeking VCs.
That's really interesting.
And the universities here are good.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're world class.
Okay.
So in California, just having world class universities, having Stanford right there, like throwing people on the job market with a great education, it just makes a big difference. That and what else is missing? A longer history of entrepreneurship, of successful entrepreneurship. I feel I'm not a big fan personally of Rocket, but I see they're huge. Like what they brought to the ecosystem. Just by them being in many different units and companies, they attracted a constant inflow of young people. And maybe you don't appreciate the products they were doing, or maybe you don't appreciate the work style, but at least it attracted people who then came into the ecosystem. Maybe they failed with the companies, but from that went on to do better and more things. So I feel if you were to have a German Facebook or a German Google, like all these people that get sucked into such an operation, they then leave at some point. They then do their own thing, and that can just develop over time. So Berlin does need just a longer period to build up these successful cases.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I've spoken to other people who've been involved in Rocket Internet, and they've said like a similar thing, that whether or not you liked what they did, they brought a whole lot of people to the ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and people who are involved in entrepreneurship and building businesses.
Yeah, and then from there moving on to do their own thing.
Yeah. And so, do you see any opportunities for the Berlin ecosystem? Ways, things that could take advantage of to improve?
Opportunities in all levels. I mean, I think it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. It's a great time to start your own company. There's so much happening, so much developing on all levels. There are not too many restrictions. I mean, yes, the ones that we've talked about, but there are all these opportunities out there. I would go as far as saying that it's the best time in the history of the world to start your own company.
Yeah, I would say so too, actually. And what about threats? Do you think that for the Berlin ecosystem there could be any, risks or threats in the future?
What could be the threats? I mean, geographically, if we look at the factors that are well for Berlin, geographically, the only threat would be wars or like closing down of Eastern European countries. Like we see like Poland developing in a very nationalistic way, Hungary the same. So if that was the case, like you would have if people weren't coming as much to Berlin anymore, or if the European Union wasn't as strong anymore. So that's more of a geopolitical threat.
Sure.
But it's quite unlikely, I feel, because the young people are much more like outward going and thriving. So that the prices could go up in the city more, and that's one of the reasons people love being here. But then you might have a second Kreuzberg.
Yes.
So maybe if Kreuzberg is full, then people go to Moabit to wedding.
Yeah.
So there's still so much space.
Yeah.
So I don't really see that. Money, I feel, will be attracting more.
That's good.
Any potential threats? Not really. Not
That's
really.
good.
All these opportunities.
Yeah. That's great. So I was just thinking before I came here, I haven't done this with the other interviews, and I didn't want to do it beforehand because I just sort of don't want to influence what people say. But these are kind of like the main, if you can even read my writing, these are the main aspects of like other ecosystems elsewhere. So we actually have talked about quite a lot of these, culture. Maybe to talk about, well, industry we sort of talked about because there's not a long history of entrepreneurialism here. But like some people, for example, felt that not having big companies here was a bit of a disadvantage.
Yes,
yeah.
True. Good point.
Yeah, like because sometimes a startup comes along and they were saying, we can ask them, how do people do this at the moment? And they say, I don't really know, but it doesn't matter because it's not online or something like that. Whereas, it's probably good to examine how things are done before you change them. Yeah. But with the lack of big companies here, that can be difficult.
Yeah, very true. I agree.
Yeah. At university we talked about... and actually, this is one thing. So people and yourself have mentioned like low prices in Berlin as one of the advantages, maybe previously more so than now, like with rents and so on. But with your experience as a co-founder, did you find people like lawyers and accountants, like people who offer traditional services that businesses need, did you find that they in any way helped you as a startup, like to grow?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. Some of my closest advisors and business partners are the ones that I actually started working with in the very beginning.
Okay.
Like my tax advisor, for example,
Right.
from day one.
Right.
Basically, and I grew with him.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's great. Yeah, it's a really common feature of like Silicon Valley or other places that I read about where people are kind of adapting their services so that they can help.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel that that's happening more even with larger companies, like Big Four companies.
Okay.
I haven't personally worked with them closely yet, but I would assume so.
Yeah.
Okay. That they adapt more.
Okay. That's great. We talked about lifestyle. Okay, that's really awesome. Is there anything else that you think might be interesting to mention? That's pretty much my question.
I still feel we are very much in the early days of the ecosystem here. Like looking at all the different factors, at the opportunities and threats, or like not so many threats, and the geopolitical positioning of Berlin in the world. So I hope there will be much more unicorns in 10 years from now. Just companies really doing well, developing well, attracting more talent. And hopefully it does not reach a level like in San Francisco where like you couldn't really move there without a job, right? Like you would basically live on the streets, which is so expensive. And to Berlin you can just move without a job. And if you're still looking, then you just go work in a bar and you can still pay rent, right? So I hope that stays for a longer period of time to just attract much more inflow people.
Great. Yeah, I think that is a real advantage. Berlin over other places. Being able to do that, and work in some other job while you work on your idea,
and even being able to do that in English.
So
that's right. My girlfriend is American.